Last time we created basic if statements. Now we're going to create if-else statements. And this is going to create a contingency plan in the event that our if condition evaluates to false. So we're going to take these same if statements, we're just going to add an else to them. Instead of writing all new code, we're just going to extend the functionality of our existing code. So beginning with our classic car if statement. So to recap, we have our model year that is set to an integer input. We have our age of the car, which is set to 2023, the year that this video was created, minus our model year. And if the age of the car is greater than or equal to 10 and the age of the car is less than or equal to 25, then we print this car as a classic. But what do we do if it's not that? Well, we'll just say that it's not a classic. So we drop down, we go back a level of indentation, and we just say else. Put a colon, and that's it. This first block executes if it's true. The second block executes if our condition is false. So we say print this car is not a classic. Okay, easy peasy. So we're going to do this again with is the grade a pass? We have our grade, which is set to a float input that asks, what is the final grade? If grade is greater than or equal to 70.0, that being a C, we print you passed. Otherwise, remember, we break out of this block here by dropping down to the next line and moving up one level of indentation back to being flush with our if. And we say else. Press enter and Visual Studio Code automatically indents for us. You may not get that luxury with your chosen editor. Just make sure that you are flush with the colon. So then we say print you failed. Okay? We're going to say, are you taller than average? And we're going to say we have our height. That is an integer input that asks for the user's height in inches. And if height is greater than 70, that is our arbitrary number for someone who is tall, we just print you are tall. Now, if we say else, flush with our if, we indent so that we're flush with our colon, and we say print, you are not tall. I could say short, but let's be a little bit nicer. So, ask if your name is long. Again, we have our input called name, string input, what's your full name? Then we do if the length of name with spaces removed, that's what this here is doing, recall, name.replace space with an empty string, deletes empty spaces, and if that is greater than 20, then we print you have a long name. Else, we print you have a short name. You see, else statements are very, very simple. You don't have to include any more conditions. You don't even really need to think too much about whether or not they'll evaluate. If this doesn't work, this will every single time. There is nothing that skips an else if you reach the else block. This is always going to execute if all your conditions fail. So, Again, one more time. Tooltips, get out of my face. What is the exponent? Now, we could say, let's do something else. Let's change this one. So we're going to ask for a base. And we're going to have multiple levels to this. We're actually going to nest an if statement in here. So let's erase this code and let's do something different. We want to know, first off, is the base an even number? So if base mod 2 equals 0, this is how we determine if a number is equal. We divide it by 2 and find out if it has a remainder of 0. We do that all in one shot with the modulus or modulo operator. So if it is, then we say result equals base squared. And then we say if result is greater than 25, then we want to print result. Now let's actually have an else to both of these. So we want to do an else for this, so we get ourselves flush with it right here. Else this number is insignificant. Why is it insignificant? Because we say so for the purpose of demonstration, not because of anything meaningful. It is purely just something to print for the purpose of showing a nested if-else. Now, we're going to break out of this if up here, and we're going to make an else for it. So we go back another 2 layers. And we do else result equals base cubed. And regardless, when our base is an odd number, we don't care whether it is a significant or insignificant number. We're going to print it either way. So you're going to say print result. And so this is an example of what code is more often than not going to look like. You might have a branch that branches, and you're going to have a lot of things to keep track of. So let's pay close attention, and we're going to follow this line of code, this line of logic, more carefully. So base equals an integer input. First thing we want to do is if our base is even, so if base mod 2 equals 0, result equals base squared. If that result is greater than 25, we want to print the value of result. Otherwise, we want to print this number is insignificant. Now, going back up to this condition, we did all of this in the event that base is an even number. If, however, base is not an even number, we do result equals base cubed, and then regardless of its value, we then print result. So we'll save this and we'll run it. I've already got the command ready to go, so we just press enter. What year is this car made? Let's say 2020. This car is not a classic. What is the final grade? 65. You failed. How tall are you in inches? I'm going to keep the same answer of 67. 67. You are not tall. What is your full name? Same answer as before. Scarlett Jadzia arithmetics, you have a short name. And lastly, enter a number. Let's say 5. That is going to print 125. Take this code, play around with the inputs, and see what you get out of them. And you might be wondering, hey, why isn't the code up above executing? I commented it out. Always comment out code that you're not using, and then uncomment it when you're ready to use it again. So, when we come back, we're going to make different versions of this here. We're going to do if, else chains. We're going to have multiple conditions to evaluate. We're not going to do as much nesting, because I only need to demonstrate that once, I feel. Or we may. It depends. I still haven't exactly decided on how we're going to break it up. But regardless, we're going to do if, else chains with similar problems to these. I want you to see how these simple conditionals evolve as we introduce more complex structure. We get more robust code as a result. So, stay tuned for that.